Hello there fellow fans of Hollow Knight, as well as any gamers curious about this particular subject that's been a rather hot topic for the past week. Today we're going to be discussing whether the Palworld devs copied Hollow Knight with their upcoming title Nevergrave, The Witch and the Curse. I will be splitting this video into chapters so you can skip the summaries if you've already done your own research into all these games. Right, so first of all, what the heck is Nevergrave? Good question. Nevergrave, The Witch and the Curse is an upcoming 2D Metroidvania which incorporates roguelike and platformer mechanics as well as other fun features like multiplayer support, enemy possession, and base building. The story follows a witchy protagonist battling through a series of dungeons with the help of her cursed hat. Nevergrave was initially announced last year along with an announcement trailer on the 20th of May. Now, when I first started writing this script, the game was listed as being developed by PocketPair, but on the 25th of January, the game's developer was updated on Steam from PocketPair to Frontside 180 Studios, a studio that seems to have no online presence. Even if you click Frontside 180 on the store page, you'll be linked back to PocketPair. They also added a free demo to Steam on the same day that I'll be playing throughout this video. Like PocketPair's other games, Nevergrave will also be released into early access first. The release date hasn't yet been confirmed, but it's currently planned for Q1 2024. Speaking of PocketPair's other games, the reason this game is suddenly in the spotlight is because of Palworld's recent success. I think it's worthwhile to cover at least a few of the allegations surrounding Palworld right now, as it serves as important context for the Nevergrave discussion. So, just in case you've been living under a rock this month, Palworld is an open-world survival game where you can hunt adorable pals, capture them, and put them to work similar to slave labour on a factory-like production line to produce tools and weapons. Since release, the game has done incredibly well, far better than anyone expected. They sold 8 million copies on Steam in less than 6 days, which is insane considering the game is also on Game Pass, and this doesn't include those figures. It reached number 2 on the list of highest all-time peak players on Steam, with a peak of 2,099,744 concurrent players, second only to PUBG. And this is all even more impressive for a game that launched into early access. Yes, that's right, Palworld is an early access game. Palworld was initially announced back in 2021 along with a trailer that immediately earned itself the nickname Pokemon with Guns, due to the limited insight we were offered through the gameplay clips featured in that trailer. After playing the game, it's clear that the game puts a uniquely satirical spin on what you'd expect to see in popular games of the same genre, which is of course never going to be everyone's cup of tea. In addition to the whole slave labour thing, you could also engage in fun activities like catching human enemies to sell or even cannibalize, and eradicate factions like the Free Pal Alliance, whose objectives revolve around liberating pals from fascist rule, leaving you, the player, questioning whether perhaps maybe you are one of the bad guys. And spoilers, you're probably one of the bad guys. PETA, also known as the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, even issued an official statement because of their concerns about in-game animal cruelty. But I think we can ignore that given PETA have one of the largest kill shelters in America, and they euthanize the majority of animals they take into custody. And that's just us barely scratching the surface of problematic things PETA has done, but this isn't a PETA video. The more legitimate criticism I want to focus on are the copying allegations, starting with the obvious first choice, Pokemon. Despite the fan-dubbed nickname Pokemon with Guns, Palworld is not a Pokemon game. There are certain similarities that I think we need to remember aren't unique to Pokemon, like monster hunting, catching, breeding, and fighting. There's a Pokedex-like system for recording pals that you've seen in court, a PAL storage system that seems to be heavily inspired by the PCs in Pokemon games, and PAL spheres could seem maybe a bit too close to Pokeballs. None of these things are quite as damning as the blatant Pokemon design rip-offs that exist as pals in the game. Keep in mind that Pokemon has had a fair few of its own accusations of copying monster designs over the years, and many of theirs are inspired by real-world animals, so similarities should be expected, but some of these are truly ridiculous. At what point does it switch from inspiration and parody to just straight-up plagiarism? Regardless of your opinion on whether it's okay to steal from big corporations, we're still talking about the work of individual artists here. In this day and age, it feels like the gaming industry is increasingly leaning towards the use of generative AI to replace artists, writers, voice actors, and whoever else they can get away with. We should not be setting a precedent that it's okay to steal from artists if they're employed by a rich corp like the Pokemon Company. Like many of the people sharing their outrage on social media right now, I am not an expert in 3D modeling, but I'll link a video in the description from someone called GoGo, who is a technical animator who rigs 3D models for a living, and they go into a lot more detail about the topic. To summarize quickly, the similarities are concerning, but they can't explicitly claim that the models have been copied. There was also a are viral threads floating around comparing Palworld and Pokemon models where the original poster apparently admitted to fabricating their results, starting yet another online witch hunt for anyone who cares to share their opinion in the Palworld discourse bubble. Look, we don't need to go to these lengths. It's pretty damn obvious which pals are inspired by which Pokemon designs, and I don't think we need to fight each other about that. The good news is, we don't have to. The Pokemon Company recently put out their own statement on the matter, not mentioning Palworld by name, but instead referencing another company's game released in January 2024, along with their intent to carry out an investigation themselves. However, this statement was shared shortly after a tweet went viral for teasing a Pokemon mod for Palworld. That video advertising the mod was quickly taken down by the copyright owner, which I presume was the Pokemon Company, but if I recall correctly, it was basically just Palworld with Pokemon models substituted in. I'm not sure why they thought they would get away with that, but either way, it's not clear whether the statement had been planned before this, or whether this was just the final straw for them to break their silence. Representatives from Nexus Mods have already said that they won't be hosting any Pokemon mods for Palworld because they don't want to feel the wrath of the Pokemon Company's team of lawyers, and I'm sure we'll all know soon enough if the Pokemon Company come up with anything concrete to use against Palworld. Remember, this game has been around for a long time now, the trailer was a while ago, they had all this time to do something. If they could have, they would have. Then on the other side, PocketPair's CEO Takura Mizobi took to Twitter to ask everyone to stop sending slanderous comments or threats towards their artists. He also confirmed in an interview with Automata Media that they have cleared legal reviews so far and have no intention of infringing upon the intellectual property of other companies. Palworld has also been accused of using generative AI for their designs, and I don't want to give those allegations too much attention in this video for 4 reasons. Reason number 1, there is nothing to support the argument that Palworld uses AI art other than random people on the internet saying they feel like they have. It is true that PocketPair have another game that does heavily rely on AI art, like that's the whole concept of the game, and their CEO has indeed said some rather controversial things about originality, but we'll discuss that later in the video, and it's not really enough to legitimize the accusation. Reason number 2, AI-generated art has come very far in recent years, but not far enough to produce instant production-ready in-game models. We even saw many of the pals back in the 2021 trailer, back when AI was far less sophisticated. Reason number 3, you must tell Steam if you've used AI to develop your game so they can add the relevant disclosure on your store page. And before you say, yeah, but they could just lie about it, yeah, they can. However, Steam users can report games if they believe AI has been used, and Steam will investigate properly on our behalf. Number 4, and the most important reason of all, even if the designs were born from generative AI, my opinion doesn't change. Art theft is art theft no matter how you look at it. I've not yet seen any solid evidence that confirms the use of AI art, so I don't understand those who are co-opting genuine, valid criticism to push an anti-AI agenda. It really only weakens the argument when you dilute it with these baseless claims. We don't need to talk about potential AI art usage based on nothing when it's clear there's so many suspect designs that they need to answer for right in front of our eyes. Anyway, Pokemon isn't the only game that may have inspired Palworld. As I mentioned before, Palworld is not a Pokemon game. It clearly lacks many of the common characteristics that we've seen in the majority of Pokemon titles since the 90s, including, but not limited to, evolutions, trading, turn-based combat, PvP, etc, etc. Palworld is a survival game taking parts of popular titles like Ark, Rust, Valheim, and Conan Exiles, and combining them with exploration and traversal mechanics that we've seen in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Then there's the whole resource management side of things that makes me feel like I'm either back working as a corporate drone as a project manager, or playing a very watered down Satisfactory. I also wanted to mention that the whole development story behind Palworld seems absolutely hilarious. They had a relatively small budget, and a team who didn't have any experience developing shooters or even know some of the most basic dev terms, and then they wanted someone with experience developing shooters on their team, which they had trouble finding in Japan until they bumped into a gun nut and self-taught dev at a convenience store. It feels like a comedy movie in the making. Okay, I've spent far too long talking about Palworld, so let me quickly touch on Craftopia and AI Art Imposter before we go back to Nevergrave. Craftopia is another PocketPair survival game currently in early access that divided public opinion in the past due to its similarities with Breath of the Wild. I'll admit, I've not played Craftopia or Breath of the Wild, so instead I've done an extensive review of what those who've actually played them have said. And from that, I've learned that the art style is similar, and there's a few modern Zelda-esque mechanics present, but then it brings in the survival elements and comparisons switch over to Rust and Minecraft. Just like Palworld, it seems to be an amalgamation of different games, and it doesn't seem like they got in any legal trouble before either. AI Art Imposter is yet another early access game developed by PocketPair, but it's very different to the others. This one's more of a party game that you can play with friends where you write commands to generate AI images that fall under a given theme, except one of you is an imposter who doesn't know what the theme is. If you guess the theme as the imposter, you win, and if players vote the right person as the imposter, they win. I can't claim to know which model it uses to generate those images, and while there are models that have learned to generate images from a pool of non-stolen or copyrighted artworks, we can't claim that that's the case here, because we'll never know for sure. Even if the game is entirely designed around AI, we don't know how these assets are being produced. My assumption would be that they're using an unethical generative AI model, but that's only based on my understanding of cost and availability. Either way, the most important takeaway here is that PocketPair are clearly not shy about stating they use AI when they do use it. Okay, back to Nevergrave and the arguments in favour of copying Hollow Knight. Let's look at some of the similarities. First of all, there's the fact that it's a Metroidvania, weak but bear with me a moment. The goal of the game seems to be to descend to the lowest levels in a similar vein to your descent in Hallow Nest. The art style, including Hollow Knight's signature lifeblood blue hue and a clear resemblance with certain decorative assets. Honestly, some of the screenshots that I've seen, I take off my glasses and that's just Hollow Knight, you know? The music, especially on the title screen, feels very Hollow Knight-esque, obviously not quite as great as our Christopher Larkin could produce. There's many combat similarities, but I do want to mention that while the Witch's slash looks eerily similar to the Knight's Nail, I don't think we can really condemn them for that because it's pretty basic and common. Some of the enemies look Hollow Knight inspired, including this one that looks like the lower half of a Flukemon. The tram system, yeah, that one's pretty bad. Locked in combat rooms, which are incredibly common in roguelikes anyway. The Path of Pain kind of area, also fairly common in platformers. We even saw it again recently in the latest Prince of Persia. And then there's benches! Tons of benches! Okay, I'm just joking on that last one. I'm not gonna lie, most of these are pretty weak on their own and are only strengthened by the fact PocketPair's MO across the board seems to be to create games that are heavily inspired by other popular games. The other factor worth mentioning that might suggest copying is PocketPair's CEO's personal mantra for designing games. Let me provide a translated quote from him taken from his interview with Wired Japan in 2022. I've always loved Nintendo games, and that hasn't changed. I also deeply respect them. However, when it comes to making games, Nintendo has a strong philosophy of creating new and unique games with high quality. On the other hand, I have a deep-rooted desire for my work to be enjoyed by as many people as possible, and to that end, if there are good ideas in the world, I pick them up, and I don't necessarily have to be particular about originality. I'm thinking about it, I want to make it more casually. I think it would be a good idea to create things in a way that just jumps on what is trendy. And I think I speak for everyone that has watched this video up to this point when I say, well, that was bloody obvious, but thank you for coming right out and saying it. The question then shifts from, did they copy Hollow Knight, to what extent, and whether the particular level of inspiration seen in this game is actually okay. Much like Palworld isn't a Pokemon game and Craftopia isn't Breath of the Wild, it seems Nevergrave has a lot of interesting mechanics thrown in that indicate it's probably not a Hollow Knight game. Starting with the roguelite elements that are absent from Hollow Knight. When you die at Nevergrave, you wake up back at that church just below the village where you can strengthen up before making your next attempt. I omitted mentioning the village at the top in the similarities segment because the village is nothing like Dirtmouth, and that's because it's your job to clear the rubble at the village and rebuild it. You can build facilities, cultivate crops, produce food and potions. It actually looks very cute. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not that many Metroidvanias with base building like this. There's quite a few that let you have a house to display trophies and collectibles. I think the second Ori lets you upgrade a home hub style area, and apparently Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance has a quest where you can collect furniture and decorate a room in the castle. Maybe there are more that I don't even know about, so do let me know in the comments. Multiplayer. Nevergrave has native multiplayer for up to 4 players, and that's going to be from release on day 1. Also, the Nevergrave dungeons are procedurally generated, which we know isn't the case for Hollow Knight. And of course, there are unique abilities and the abilities of enemies that you can possess using your cursed witch's hat. And that's all in addition to the differences in art styles that I've not even called out yet. Every single accusation that I've seen on social media of people calling Nevergrave a Hollow Knight clone has shared the same screenshots with the blue or green highlights. While I agree that there are design similarities that are certainly Hollow Knight inspired, I don't think we can call every Metroidvania that uses this colour palette a clone. There are many other areas that feature in the trailer and in the demo that I'm not needing to take a double take to see that it's not Hollow Knight. This isn't the first time a game has been accused of copying Hollow Knight. Look at Haiku the Robot, Bow, Crowsworn, Deviator, Ender Lilies, Gleamlight, the list goes on, with some of these having a far stronger case for being a copycat than Nevergrave. Where is the line for the acceptable amount of inspiration that you're allowed to take from one of the best Metroidvanias to ever exist? We know Team Cherry have been supportive of some of these titles in the past, and I certainly don't want to get annoyed on their behalf, especially for a game that plays so differently to Hollow Knight, their game. I want to end this section by acknowledging that there may well be a lot more that we don't know about in this game. It's not fully released yet, and I'm sure I'll make an update video if there's more to discuss. But in a case like this, there's always going to be unknowns. So, back to the main question. Do I think the devs copied Hollow Knight? Yes and no. I think it's pretty likely that they saw Hollow Knight's success, thought, hey, I want a piece of that, and that's where Nevergrave may have started. But it's not a Hollow Knight clone. It's a very, very different game. Game mechanics and how they feel are not copyrightable in most instances, and even if they were, I don't think there's a strong enough case here for Team Cherry if they did want to pursue this further. PocketPair do exhibit a clear trend of taking pieces of other popular games or series and putting them together to create something new. Competition is healthy and very good for consumers, but blatantly ripping off another game, especially when it does well, discourages innovation. A certain level of inspiration is okay, we wouldn't have games like Hollow Knight, Stardew Valley, or even God of War otherwise, but straight up ripping off someone else's art is not. I do genuinely think that Nevergrave has only become a discussion point recently as a snap judgment from those who just hate Palworld, and as I've covered before, there is legitimate criticism that PocketPair should address with regards to the art theft allegations. Annoyingly, this would have all been avoided if they just designed pals that bared less resemblance to individual Pokemon because, as I keep saying, it's not a Pokemon game. The unique offering that Palworld brings to the table is the combination of popular elements that gamers clearly enjoy, but this is a video about Nevergrave, not Palworld. Nevergrave seems like another Frankenstein PocketPair game that resembles many popular titles, and it offers a unique experience you wouldn't get from any of those that it took inspiration from alone. It's not particularly innovative in its own right, but it's certainly an interesting recipe that I'll be keeping my eye on. However, after playing the demo and then going back to my script, right now, it doesn't play well on my PC, it doesn't run smoothly. I don't know if you can see that in the video. I'm hoping that that gets either fixed before it releases, or I don't know, maybe it's something on my PC, I'll try another device. The other question on my mind is, why do they have so many of these games in early access? I don't think it's particularly common to have multiple games in early access at once, especially for a company as small as PocketPair. Maybe that'll be a good topic for another video, and if you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.